The night sky burned red with fire, smoke rising high like a second storm above the battlefield. The alien city that once stood proud with tall towers of crystal and light was now broken, flames eating through its streets. The sound of weapons and screams echoed everywhere. In the middle of this chaos, Princess Serenia fell, her silver cloak torn, her jeweled crown broken. She was not just any alien girl. She was the daughter of a noble house that ruled for centuries. Her people had once bowed to her name, but now they ran past her, pushing her aside. Some trampled her as they tried to escape the firestorm. Her nobility meant nothing. Serenia tried to stand, but pain shot through her leg. She had been struck earlier by a falling stone when the palace roof collapsed. She could not walk. Her guards had abandoned her. Her court had vanished. The nobles who once promised loyalty had fled first. She was alone for the first time in her life. Serenia tasted the dirt of the streets. Her pale hands shook as she tried to crawl. Behind her, she could hear the enemy marching closer. Hunters from another world. They had come to burn everything and to capture the nobles alive. They wanted trophies, slaves, and symbols of victory if they caught her. Her life would end in chains, and then, through smoke and flame, she saw him. A human, tall and rough, wearing armor scorched by fire. His face was covered in ash, his eyes sharp but tired. He should have kept running like the others, but instead he stopped. His gaze fell on her, lying in the dust like a broken jewel for a moment. Serenia thought he would laugh at her. Humans were always called lesser by her people. Farmers, miners, mercenaries, never nobles. But the human did not laugh. He dropped to one knee beside her, his voice low and steady. "You can't stay here. You'll die," Serenia's pride flared. Even in her broken state, she wanted to tell him she was royalty, that she commanded him to carry her, but the words died on her lips, because she realized something bitter. No one cared about her titles anymore. She was nothing but prey. The human did not wait for her permission. He lifted her in his arms as if she weighed nothing. Serenia gasped, shocked by the strength of this stranger. His armor clanged as he rose. The fire behind them roared louder. A building collapsed, sending sparks into the air like angry stars. Why would you help me?" She whispered, her voice weak. She could not understand. No one else had stopped, not even her own people. The human's jaw tightened. He looked ahead, scanning the burning streets. "Because leaving you behind is wrong," he said simply. His words were not noble, not decorated with poetry, but they cut through the smoke like a blade. He ran, carrying her through the chaos, his boots splashing in water from broken pipes, his breath heavy but steady. Behind them, enemy soldiers shouted as they spotted the human carrying the alien princess. Bolts of energy slammed into the walls. Sparks lit the night. Serenia's heart pounded. She clung to him without meaning to, her hands gripping his armor. Every step he took felt impossible. He should have dropped her to save himself, but he didn't. He carried her like she was the most important life in that burning world. As they turned a corner, fire blocked the path ahead. The human did not slow down. He lowered his shoulder and pushed through falling beams, shielding her body with his own. Sparks burned his arms. A beam struck his backplate. He groaned but kept moving. Serenia stared up at his face through the smoke. She saw no fear, only determination. It was strange to her. She had been raised to believe only nobles had courage. Yet here was a human, risking everything for her. The streets grew narrower. Filled with rubble, the human slipped once. Almost falling, Serenia cried out, but he tightened his grip. His voice came through the roar of fire. "Hold on. I won't let you fall." For the first time that night, Serenia felt something she hadn't felt in years, hope. A hope born not from her bloodline or crown, but from this stranger who chose to carry her when all others left her behind. Far behind them, the hunters shouted louder. Their boots hammered the broken streets. They would not stop until they caught the last noble. The firestorm closed in from every side, and still the human ran. Through smoke, through fire, through death itself, carrying the fallen nobility who had once looked down on his kind. Serenia's thoughts blurred as exhaustion pulled at her. Her last clear memory before darkness closed in was the sound of his heart beating against her ear, strong and steady, a rhythm that promised she was not alone. And somewhere deep inside, she whispered a truth she had never admitted before. "My crown is nothing, but his arms are everything right now." The night burned, the city crumbled, and nobility fell, but humanity carried her through fire. The city was no longer a place of life. It had become a maze of fire and falling stone. The human pushed forward, carrying Serenia in his arms. His lungs burned from smoke, but his eyes searched for any path that was still open. Behind them came the hunters, armored shadows with glowing eyes. Their weapons hummed as they shouted in a language Serenia knew well. They were calling her name. They wanted her alive, not dead. Her capture would be their victory. Serenia clung to the human. She could feel every movement of his muscles as he ran. He was not gentle, he had no time for that, but he was steady. He held her like she was not a burden at all. Even through pain and fire, he did not slow. A wall ahead cracked and collapsed. Stones tumbled down in a roar. The human leapt aside just in time. Clutching Serenia close, he landed hard. His knee slamming into the ground, but he rose again without pause. His armor dented, his face streaked with soot. Serenia's voice trembled. "You should leave me. They will kill you if you carry me." The human shook his head, sweat and ash dripping from his hair. "They'll kill me whether I carry you or not, so I might as well do the right thing." The word struck her like a blade. No noble had ever spoken so simply. Nobles gave speeches about duty and honor. But this man, this human, spoke truth without pride. The hunter's footsteps grew louder. Energy bolts slammed into walls and shattered windows. Sparks fell like burning rain. One beam cut across the human's shoulder plate. Knocking him sideways, Serenia gasped. But he steadied himself and kept going. They reached a broken marketplace. The stalls had burned. Cloth banners turned to ash. The air smelled of smoke and metal. The human darted behind fallen beams, placing Serenia down for the first time. He crouched low, scanning the shadows. "Stay quiet," he whispered. Serenia tried to argue. But his hand rose sharply. He did not mean disrespect, only urgency. She froze, listening. The hunters were close, their heavy boots striking the stones. Their voices echoed through the ruins, searching, hunting. The human picked up a broken piece of iron from the ground, a shard of what once was a support beam. His eyes hardened. He had no high-tech weapon, no noble's armor, only his strength and wits. Serenia stared at him, confused. "You are not a soldier, are you?" His mouth curved slightly, though not in humor. "I mop floors on a transport ship, but tonight, I guess I'm something else." Before Serenia could answer, the hunters appeared, 3 of them armored, their glowing visors cutting through smoke. They spread out, weapons raised. The human crouched lower, his body tense. He leaned close to Serenia. "When I move, you don't look back, you understand?" Her lips parted. She wanted to scream that she couldn't walk. But before she could speak, he moved, exploding out of the shadows like a storm. The iron shard slammed into the first hunter's visor with brutal force. Sparks flying, the alien fell backward with a howl. The other 2 fired, beams slicing through the air. The human twisted, pulling Serenia against the ground, shielding her with his body. The blasts scorched the stone where she had been a heartbeat before. Then he was up again, swinging the iron like a club. He struck the second hunter's weapon arm, breaking it with a crack. The alien shrieked, dropping its weapon. The human rammed his shoulder into the creature's chest, sending it crashing into a burning stall. The third hunter raised its rifle, aiming straight at Serenia. Her eyes widened in terror. She had no strength to move. She thought it was over. But the human was faster. He hurled the iron shard, striking the alien's chest plate. The weapon fired wildly into the air. Scorching the roof beams, the human dove forward, tackling the hunter to the ground. The fight was brutal, raw. Every strike the human made was fueled not by training but by desperation. He slammed his fist into the alien's mask until it cracked, until it lay still. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of fire. The human staggered back. Breathing hard, his knuckles bled. His armor bent, his chest heaved with exhaustion. Yet his eyes were sharp. He turned to Serenia, picked her up once more and whispered, "We have to keep moving. More will come." Serenia's mind spun. She could not believe it. A human janitor had fought hunters, trained killers, and won. He had done it not for glory, not for reward, but for her. As he carried her again, she whispered, almost without thinking, "What is your name?" "Kyle," he said simply, eyes fixed ahead. "Kyle," she repeated softly, the name strange yet solid on her tongue. For the first time she felt safe, even in the middle of fire. The path ahead led toward the river that cut through the city. Its bridges were broken, but the water still flowed. If they reached the other side, there might be a chance. Behind them, a horn sounded. The hunters had found their fallen, and were calling reinforcements. The city shook as more boots marched in their direction. Cale tightened his hold on Serenia, his eyes narrowing with fierce resolve. He would not stop, not until she was safe, not until they were both free of this burning grave. Through fire, through blood, through the death of a city, the human and the fallen noble moved as one, and though Serenia had once believed her nobility meant everything, tonight she saw a greater truth. Human courage was worth far more than any crown. The night grew quieter as Cale carried Serenia toward the edge of the burning city. The fire still roared behind them, but here in the ruined outskirts the streets were darker, empty, filled only with broken walls and scattered bodies. Cale's steps slowed. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. Every muscle ached. His arms shook from holding her so long, but he refused to set her down until he was sure they were safe for a moment. Finally, in the shadow of a collapsed tower, he lowered Serenia gently onto a stone slab. She winced as her injured leg touched the ground. Her hands trembled as she tried to adjust her torn cloak around herself. Cale crouched beside her, scanning the distance, his eyes sharp, listening for any sound of hunters. Only the crackle of flames and the distant crash of falling buildings reached them. Serenia looked at him closely for the first time. He was not tall like her warriors, not noble in posture or voice. His armor was dented, his hands raw with cuts. But his presence was strong, steady and somehow unshakable. Her pride stung. Once, she had been surrounded by knights, servants, and courtiers who praised her beauty and bowed to her every word. Now she sat in rags, leaning against broken stone, her crown gone, her leg useless, saved only by a human janitor. She hated the weakness she felt. The shame burned hotter than the fire. "You risked your life for me," she whispered at last, her voice thin. "Do you even know who I am?" Cale turned his gaze from the street to her, his expression calm. "You're someone who needed help." Her lips parted, stunned. "That's all?" He nodded once. "That's enough." The simplicity of his answer cut deep. No titles, no rank, no heritage, only a living being in danger. That was how he saw her, not as a princess, not as a fallen noble, but as someone worth saving. For Serenia it was unbearable, she wanted to argue, to remind him that she was Serenia of House Valeth, first daughter of the High Throne, but the words tasted bitter now. What good was a name when her people had abandoned her? Her chest tightened and she turned her face away, hiding the tears that threatened to fall. Nobility had taught her never to cry before others, never to show weakness, yet this night had stripped everything from her. Cale watched her in silence for a moment, then carefully tore a strip of cloth from his undershirt. He crouched beside her injured leg. She flinched, but he only said, "Hold still." With rough, practiced hands, he wrapped the wound. His touch was firm but not cruel. His fingers worked with surprising care. Serenia stared at him, confused. You've done this before?" Cale shrugged slightly. "Ships are dangerous places. People get hurt. You learn to patch wounds, even if you're just a janitor." Her pride twisted again. How could a janitor know more about survival than a princess? But at the same time, warmth spread through her chest at his words. He did not see himself as small. He simply did what needed to be done. Silence settled between them. The flames outside painted the ruins in orange light. Serenia's thoughts darkened. Her mind replayed the moment she fell in the palace, the moment her guards fled. She remembered her father's cold eyes in the council chamber, how he had once said, "Nobility means duty above all." Yet when fire came, that duty vanished. Cale broke the silence. "You keep looking back," he said quietly. "Like you left something behind." Her throat tightened. She wanted to stay silent, but something in his steady voice pulled the truth out of her. "I left everything," she whispered, "my people, my throne, my family. They were supposed to protect me, but they abandoned me." Kyle said nothing, but his eyes softened. He understood more than she thought. She turned toward him, anger flashing through her tears. "Why are you not asking for reward? For riches? For favor? That is what anyone else would demand for saving a princess." Cale leaned back against the wall, his face lit by the flickering fire. "Because I don't need your crown. I just need to make it out alive, and if carrying you helps that, then I carry you." The words left her speechless. She looked down at her hands, once covered in jewels, now dirty and bruised. For the first time she wondered if her crown had been nothing but chains. Chains that blinded her from seeing true worth. A sound in the distance broke the fragile silence. The hunter's horns again, closer this time. Serenia stiffened. Fear flashing in her eyes, Cale rose quickly, his jaw set. He offered his hand to her. We move now, before they find us. She hesitated, her pride fighting against the humiliation of needing help. But when she looked into his eyes, steady, unshaken, she placed her hand in his. Cale lifted her once more, and as he did, Serenia whispered to herself so quietly he did not hear. Maybe nobility was always a lie, but Cale's arms felt real. His courage felt real, and for the first time, she thought that perhaps the human carried more than just her weight. He carried the truth she had been too proud to see. The fire behind them grew brighter, the hunter's horns closer, and together, they vanished once more into the smoke. The night stretched on, long and heavy, as Cale carried Serenia away from the burning city. The air cooled as they reached the forests beyond the walls. The trees stood like dark giants, their leaves whispering in the wind. The fire behind them still glowed, but here the smoke thinned. Cale finally slowed. His arms trembled from exhaustion. He lowered Serenia carefully onto a patch of moss near a fallen log. She winced but said nothing. Her pride kept her silent. Cale sat down beside her, pulling off a piece of broken armor from his shoulder. His skin underneath was bruised and burned. Serenia noticed the wounds but did not speak. He seemed the type who would keep moving until his body broke. For a long time they sat in silence. Only the distant cries of night creatures filled the air. Serenia stared at the forest canopy, her mind heavy with memories. You should leave me here, she said softly. I am slowing you down. The hunters want me. Not you. If you leave me, you may live. Cale looked at her, his eyes steady. And if I leave you, you'll die. And then I'll live knowing I could have saved you but chose not to. That's worse than dying. His words struck her again, raw and simple. Nothing like the speeches of nobles. They cut straight into her heart. She turned her face away, unable to look at him. You do not understand. I am not just any alien. I am Serenia of House Valeth, heir to the throne. If the hunters capture me, they will use me to control my people. My life is not just mine. It is a chain around others. Cale leaned back against the log, his expression unreadable. So your people will fight for you? Serenia laughed bitterly. Fight? They abandoned me. The nobles fled first. My guards left me bleeding. My family hid behind thick walls and prayers. No, they will not fight for me, but the hunters believe they will. That is why I am a prize. Cale was quiet for a moment. His gaze turned toward the stars peeking through the leaves. Then maybe it's not about what they believe, he said finally. Maybe it's about what you choose. Do you want to live for them or live for yourself? Her chest tightened. No one had ever asked her that before. Nobility meant she was always a symbol. Never a person, but here in the forest, broken and carried by a human. She felt like a person for the first time. She whispered, I don't know. Cale glanced at her, his eyes softer now. Then figure it out, but until you do, I'll keep you alive. Something shifted between them then. Not just survival, not just duty, something deeper, fragile but strong. The night grew colder. Cale gathered dry branches and lit a small fire. The glow painted his face in orange light. He sat close, but not too close, as if respecting an invisible distance. Serenia watched him, studying the lines of his face. His hands were rough, scarred from years of labor. His eyes carried exhaustion, but also resolve. He had no crown, no riches, and yet his presence felt more noble than any lord she had known. Why did you become a janitor? She asked suddenly, surprising even herself. Cale shrugged, tossing a stick into the flames. Because someone has to clean what others leave behind. And it pays enough to eat. His words were plain, but they carried weight. Serenia thought of her own life. Surrounded by servants who cleaned her messes, she had never wondered how they felt, never seen their faces as more than shadows. Now she sat beside a man who had lived that life, and he was the one saving her. Her pride wavered. She whispered, I was taught humans were lesser. Cale's lips curved into a faint smile, not bitter but amused. And now? Serenia lowered her eyes, ashamed. Now I see that my people were blind. Silence followed, but not the heavy kind. This silence felt lighter, a fragile thread tying them together. The fire crackled, the forest whispered. Serenia pulled her cloak tighter. Her body ached, her heart heavier still, but inside something new stirred. A bond she could not name. Hours passed. Cale stayed awake, watching the shadows. Every sound in the forest made his hand tighten on the piece of iron he still carried. Serenia drifted in and out of uneasy sleep, each time waking to see him still there, still watching over her. At dawn, the forest glowed faintly with pale light. Serenia opened her eyes to find Kale leaning against the log. His head bowed, but his hand still gripping the iron. He had not slept. She stared at him for a long moment, her chest filled with something she did not want to admit. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and touched his arm. Her voice low, almost fragile. "Thank you." Kale, his eyes opened, meeting hers for a moment. The world was quiet, no fire, no hunters. Just two souls bound together by something stronger than titles or crowns. And in that quiet, Serenia realized the truth. Her nobility had been a cage. But here, with this human, she had found something freer. Something real. It was not spoken aloud, but the bond had formed. A secret bond born of fire, pain, and survival. A bond neither crown nor chain could ever break. The morning sun rose weakly through the smoke-filled sky. Its pale light touched the ruined forest floor where Kyle and Serenia had rested. The silence of dawn was broken by distant horns. Low and sharp, Serenia stiffened at once. She knew that sound. "They're closing in," she whispered. Her voice tense, Kale stood quickly, his muscles stiff from no sleep. He helped her up, wrapping her arm across his shoulder. "Then we move," he said firmly. The forest stretched ahead, thick with shadows. But the sound of boots came from every direction. Serenia's heart pounded. The hunters were spreading out, tightening their circle, like wolves driving prey into a trap. Kale's jaw tightened. He had seen hunts before. He knew the pattern. Drive the target into the open, surround, and capture. He adjusted Serenia's weight in his arms and began moving faster, weaving between trees, but the horns grew louder. Closer. The net was closing. Suddenly, a bolt of energy slammed into a tree beside them. The trunk exploded, spraying bark and fire. Kale spun and ducked behind a fallen log, shielding Serenia with his body. More shots followed, tearing into the ground. "They found us!" Serenia gasped. Kale's eyes narrowed. "Then we make them regret it." Before she could respond, shadows moved between the trees, hunters, armored and armed. Their glowing visors flickered in the mist, spreading in a half circle to block every escape. Kale crouched low, his grip tightening on the iron shard he had carried since the city. It was crude, but in his hands it felt like a real weapon. His breathing slowed, his body ready. Serenia's voice shook. "You can't fight them all, Kale. There are too many." He looked at her briefly, and in his eyes was the same stubborn fire she had seen before. "I don't have to fight them all, just enough to break the net." The hunters moved closer. Weapons raised, their leader stepped forward. His voice echoed through a mechanical speaker. Cold and sharp, "Hand over the noble human, and you may live." Kale's grip tightened, his voice was steady. "Come and take her." The hunters raised their rifles, beams of light humming at the tips. Serenia's breath caught. She had seen executions before, but never this close. Never with her life at the center of it. The first shot came, Kale rolled sideways, dragging Serenia with him. The ground scorched where they had been. He threw his iron shard like a spear. It slammed into one hunter's visor, sparks flying as the alien fell with a roar. Chaos broke. The hunters fired, beams tearing through the forest. Kale moved with raw instinct, pulling Serenia behind rocks. Using fallen trees as cover, he had no training, but desperation sharpened every move. Serenia clung to him, her leg burning with pain. Her heart pounded as the world turned into fire and shadows. Kale tackled one hunter as it came too close. His fists slammed into the alien's mask again and again until it fell. He snatched its weapon, heavy and strange, but in his hands it became deadly. He fired, blasts of energy ripping through the trees, forcing the other hunters to scatter. For the first time, the net broke slightly. "Now!" Kale shouted, lifting Serenia again. He sprinted through the gap, blasts chasing them. Trees exploded behind them, the forest lit with fire. But the hunters were not done. They regrouped fast, chasing through the trees. Serenia could hear their voices. Angry and sharp, Kale stumbled once, his legs nearly giving out. But he kept going. Serenia looked at him, seeing the sweat, the blood, the exhaustion in his face. He was pushing beyond his limits, all for her. Her throat tightened, and in a low voice she whispered, "Why do you keep fighting for me? You don't even know me." Kale's breath came harsh, but his words were clear. "Because no one else will, and I won't be the man who leaves someone behind." Tears stung her eyes. She wanted to argue, to push him away, but the truth was she needed him. more than she had ever needed anyone. Ahead the forest thinned, opening to a rocky ridge. Beyond lay a river, wide and fast if they could reach it. Maybe the current would hide them, but as they neared the ridge, more hunters appeared from the trees, cutting them off. The net had closed again. Tighter than before, Cale slowed. His chest heaving, Serenya's heart sank. There was no way through. The hunters aimed their weapons. The leader stepped forward, voice cold as stone. "The noble belongs to us. Human, step aside. Your fight is over." Cale's grip on Serenya tightened, his eyes burned. "Not while I can stand." The hunters raised their rifles, and then the ground shook. A sudden explosion ripped through the ridge above. Rocks tumbled down, smashing into the forest floor. The hunters scattered, shouting. Cale shielded Serenya as dust and stone rained down. When the air cleared, he saw a new path had opened. Jagged but leading down to the river. Without hesitation, he lifted her again. His voice low but fierce. "Hold on, Serenya. We're not done yet." And with the hunters roaring behind them, Cale carried her down into the chaos. The net had closed, but somehow, through fire and stone, he had torn it apart. The river carried them far from the hunters. Its current was fast, crashing against rocks. Cale held Serenya tightly. Keeping her head above water, his arms burned. But he did not let go. At last they reached the far bank, pulling themselves out onto muddy ground. Cale collapsed on the shore, chest heaving. Serenya lay beside him, coughing. Her long hair clung to her face, wet and tangled for a moment. The only sound was the river rushing past. They had escaped. For now, Cale sat up first, scanning the trees. "We can't rest long," he muttered. "They'll find another way across." Serenya nodded weakly. Though her body ached, her leg throbbed with pain. But her thoughts burned hotter. She remembered the hunter's words. "The noble belongs to us." She remembered the way her own guards had fled, leaving her in the palace ruins. She whispered, "Cale, what if we run forever? They will never stop." Cale's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightened. "Then we keep going until they can't follow." One step at a time. It should have comforted her, but instead a shadow fell over her heart. Because she knew the truth, there was no place safe for her. Not even among her own people. Hours later, after following game trails through the forest, they reached the outskirts of another settlement. Smaller than her city, made of stone huts and watchtowers. Smoke curled from chimneys. The banner of her house still fluttered above the gate. Serenya's chest tightened. Her people, her bloodline. Cale paused, his arm around her. "Is this safe?" She hesitated. Her pride told her yes. Her heart whispered no, but she forced herself to answer. "It is my people. They will protect me." Cale studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. "We'll see." The guards at the gate gasped when they saw her. Their eyes wide, their voices urgent as they called her name. "Princess Serenya!" She was taken inside at once. Carried into a hall lit with torches, nobles gathered quickly, their jeweled robes brushing the floor. The air smelled of perfume and fear. Serenya tried to stand tall, but her leg betrayed her. Cale steadied her quietly. The noble's eyes flicked to him, suspicious, cold. An elder noble stepped forward, bowing low, his words soft but heavy. "Princess, we thought you were dead, but perhaps it would have been better." Her heart froze. "What do you mean?" The elder's eyes hardened. "The hunters demand your surrender. They say if we deliver you, they will leave our settlement untouched if we resist. They will burn us as they burned the capital." Serenya's breath caught. Betrayal stung sharper than fire. "You would hand me over?" "I am your heir, your blood." The noble's lips pressed thin. "Your blood no longer protects us, princess. Your crown has brought nothing but fire." Cale stepped forward, fury in his voice. "She bled for her people. She was abandoned, and still she survived. And now you would give her away like a coin?" The noble sneered, one spat on the floor. "Human. You know nothing of duty, stand aside." Cale's hands clenched. His jaw set, but before he could speak, Serenya's voice rang out, trembling with rage. "Enough! You think nobility is bargaining with hunters? You think survival means betrayal? Then you are not my people, you are cowards." The nobles flinched at her words, but their eyes were already cold. They had made their choice that night, whispers spread. Soldiers gathered outside the hall. The deal was struck. They would deliver Serenya to the hunters at dawn. Cale heard the whispers. He burst into her chamber, eyes burning. "They're going to hand you over." Serenya sat by the window, her face pale, her hands shaking. She had known deep down, but hearing it broke her. Her own blood would sell her life to save themselves. Her voice cracked. I have nothing left. Kale, not my crown, not my people. Kyle dropped to one knee before her, his voice fierce. You still have me, her eyes filled with tears. Why? Why do you keep standing beside me when even my people will not? Kale's hand touched hers, rough but steady. Because loyalty isn't about crowns. It's about choice, and I choose you. For a long moment, Serenia could not speak. The fire of betrayal burned inside her. But Kale's words gave her strength outside. The sound of boots echoed. The soldiers were coming. Kale pulled Serenia to her feet. We run now, she hesitated. Fear and pain holding her still, but then she looked at him, his eyes steady, his grip strong, and she nodded. Together they slipped into the shadows, leaving behind the settlement that had chosen betrayal, leaving behind nobility that meant nothing. As they fled into the night once more, Serenia whispered through tears. If my people see me as a burden, then let them, but you, Kale, you carry me as if I matter. And for the first time, she began to believe she did. The night air was sharp and cold as Kyle and Serenia ran from the settlement that had betrayed her. Behind them, the sound of horns and shouting soldiers echoed. Torches lit up the darkness as men hunted their own princess. Serenia's chest tightened with every step. Her people were not her people anymore. They had traded her life for safety. Yet Kale's hand was firm, guiding her through the shadows, his voice steady. Keep moving. Don't look back. They reached the forest again, the trees swallowing them whole. The torches faded behind, but the weight of betrayal stayed heavy. Serenia limped, her injured leg slowing her down. Kale saw it and, without hesitation, lifted her once more into his arms. She whispered, broken. You will break yourself carrying me. Kale's voice came low but fierce. Then I'll break carrying you, not leaving you. Her throat tightened. Tears burned her eyes. For so long she had believed nobility gave her worth. Now she realized her worth lived in the strength of this human's arms. As dawn broke, they found shelter in the ruins of an old watchtower. Stones cracked, vines crawling up the walls. Kale set Serenia down carefully and checked the wound on her leg. His hands rough but gentle. You need rest, he said, his voice tired. And I need time to think. Serenia studied his face, lined with exhaustion, eyes dark with shadows. He had carried her through fire, water, betrayal, and still he stood. Bruised but unbroken, softly she said, You have given me more loyalty than my whole house, Kale. Why? He sat back, his eyes meeting hers. Because crowns burn, palaces fall, but people matter, you matter. Her breath caught. The words wrapped around her heart like a shield. She wanted to argue, to remind him of her failures, her weakness, but his eyes silenced her. In them she saw something deeper than duty. Choice. For a moment there was peace. The ruins were quiet, birds calling in the distance. Serenia leaned against the stone wall, her body aching but her heart strangely calm. Then the sound of drums thundered in the forest. The hunters had come again, their voices cold, promising chains and death. Kale stood, his jaw set. They found us, Serenia tried to rise. But her leg gave way, fear washed over her. We cannot fight them all. Kyle turned, lifting her once more, his arms shook. But his voice was steel. I'll carry you through them. Just like I carried you through the fire. The hunters appeared between the trees, armored shapes closing in. Their leader stepped forward, weapon raised, his voice sharp. Give us the noble and live human. This is your last chance. Kale's arms tightened around Serenia. His answer came like thunder. You'll have to kill me first. The hunters advanced, weapons glowing. But Kale did not back down. He ran forward, dodging between broken walls, using the ruins for cover. Energy bolts scorched the stone. Sparks rained. Serenia buried her face against his chest, her heart pounding with every shot. Every step he took felt like defiance against a galaxy that had already decided her fate. One hunter lunged, Kyle twisted, slamming his shoulder into the alien. Knocking it aside, another fired. Kale ducked, shielding Serenia with his own body. A blast struck his armor, searing hot. He groaned but kept moving. They broke through the circle. Running toward the open hills, the hunters shouted, firing wildly. But Kale did not stop. His breath ragged, his body near collapse, but still he carried her. Serenia looked up at him through tears. Why do you keep doing this? You will die for me. Kale's voice came harsh but clear. Then I die carrying you, not leaving you. That's the only choice I can live with. Her tears spilled. And in that moment she understood. Nobility was never about crowns, or thrones or bloodlines. It was about courage, sacrifice, and the choice to protect. They reached the ridge. The morning sun blazing behind them, Kale staggered but did not fall. Serena's heart broke seeing him push beyond all limits for her. The hunters stopped at the edge, watching as the human carried the alien princess higher and higher. Their leader snarled but did not pursue. For even they saw something unshakable, something stronger than chains or crowns. At the top of the ridge, Kale finally collapsed to his knees. Serena still in his arms, his chest heaved, his strength spent. But his eyes met hers, steady, unbroken. Serena cupped his face with trembling hands, her voice raw with emotion. Kale, you carried me when no one else would. You gave me life when my people gave me death. You are my nobility now. His lips curved in the faintest of smiles. And you are more than a crown. The wind rushed over the ridge, carrying away the smoke below them. The hunters faded into the trees, beaten not by blades or armies, but by the unyielding will of one human. Serena leaned against Kyle, her tears falling freely, and in that moment, she knew the truth. Her old life had died in fire and betrayal. But from those ashes rose something stronger, carried not by nobility but by humanity. And as Kyle lifted her once more, stepping into the light of a new day, Serena whispered the words that would follow her forever. My crown is nothing, but in your arms I have everything.